Are you good? Because we'll have to go into Kazhem stuff now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Kazhem.
Hello?
Hey.
Hi.
I don't think he's gonna make it.
In May of 2017, we actually went to a local theme park, and his eyes started to cross. And we thought it was cute. We laughed and giggled. Oh, look, because he had his hands in front of him and he was looking, and it looked like he made his eyes cross. But then we started noticing, we went to go out to eat, that his eyes didn't uncross. So we started getting a little nervous. I'm like, well, maybe he's got, he's trying to focus differently. Maybe he's found his nose and he's trying to see his nose the whole time. Something to that effect. Come that night, you couldn't lie him down. Like you'd hold him up and he was fine. But if you'd invert him, his whole face would just turn red and he would just, he was in writhing pain. So we ended up taking him to the doctors. We called the next day. We think something's wrong with him. We don't know what's going on. We took him to the doctor's office, and the doctor immediately called an ambulance there at the doctor's office. And this is, like I said, in May 2017. So he's roughly 3 months old. Called the ambulance. The ambulance came to pick him up. They brought all the doctors in there first, and they said, we don't know what's going on with him. We have never seen this before. They took him off to Children's Hospital, and they thought maybe he's got meningitis, maybe all kinds of stuff. They tested we thought maybe the Zika disease. We thought maybe some sort of mosquito illness, malaria, or diphtheria. They checked everything, and could never figure out what's wrong with him. And so his eyes, he was in a hospital for maybe 10, 12 days, but his eyes started to normalize. And they said, well, maybe it's just a brain issue, like maybe something's dislodged in his cortex or cerebral cortex or his optical nerve or something like that. So the eye doctors came in. They did CT scans on him. They checked him over 100% and never could figure out what's wrong with him. And he kind of snapped out of it. And then when I got the kids back it was December 14th of 2017, after not being with them for, many months, everything was great. We had a great time. I would send emails and messages every day to their mother saying how wonderful they're doing, how fun they're having. Send pictures, co-parenting, like we're supposed to co-parent, that I didn't get at all, even a phone call. February, that's when I went to go to work. and he had a seizure at my girlfriend's house at the time. And so we had the seizure. She called 911. She took him, the ambulance took him to the hospital. I met at the hospital, and he was still struggling. But he ended up getting out of it. 2-3 days later, they're going to release him from the hospital. He's back to his normal self, being all sweet and loving. I'm holding him and rocking him and loving on him, and he's loving on me back. I didn't leave the hospital. I had my bed in his room, and he started having another seizure. And when he had this second seizure, they pumped him full of anything and everything, they said. In fact, their words were, we gave him so much stuff that he's not going to wake up for 24 hours, at least. I said, all right, he's out of the seizure. Everything's fine. He'll get out of this, and hopefully we'll figure out what's going on. He did come out of it. So they moved him up to critical care. It was that time that, I never knew what they were doing, but they always would look at and open the eyes up and look into the eyes, all the time, check the eyes. Well, his quit responding. So when he quits responding, that means almost certain brain death. So I saw when a nurse came and looked at his eyes that she ran out, and a whole team of people came in, and they tried every which way to try to reverse it. I think that I don't even know what they put in him. It was just at that point that it was sit and wait. There's been a few cases where people's come out of it, and I swore up and down that he would come out of it. And obviously he didn't. And so they said, you'll hold the baby. You want to hold Kazhem? I said, yeah. Which I hadn't been able to hold him because of all the stuff hooked up. But they had hooked all the stuff from him, and they'd already told us being me, the mother. I got the mother down there. Even with all this hate going on between us, I fought for her to come down. Everything from getting a lawyer on it to calling the border patrol, everything to get her down because she needed to be with her baby.
Okay?
And I mean, in your expert opinion, is it possible for any of this to have been triggered by something outside of his body, his environment, in any way?
Well, we've looked at the possibility of ingestion, accidental ingestion, or whatever, and we didn't. Those studies were negative. We did, we're looking into, since he's been in here in May with what looked like an encephalitis, and had a kind of an abnormal MRI with that, we're wondering if there's a congenital picture here, that this is congenital seizures, and so we're looking at that right now.
Could some sort of trauma be the cause
I
of all
don't see
this?
anything. He's had lots of scans. There's not anything broken. There's not any blood in his brain. There's not any of the stuff that we see with trauma. Okay? The ophthalmologist looked at his eyes. We'll see bleeding in the back of the eyes if someone's shaken him or if he's been hit or anything. We don't see any of that. Okay? It's the best I can tell you. Nothing's broken. Nothing that looks like trauma. And unfortunately, we see a lot of that. It happens a lot, and I don't see it.
And so I held him, and they turned off his ventilator, and he died in my arms. And so that was it. And it was just such a weird moment when they said, we're going to take him downstairs, after he died, we're going to take him, wherever they're going to take him. And I said, well, I want to wait here for that. I would like to see you guys take him. He said, I'll never forget this. I said, well, we're going to be putting him in a garbage bag and stuff, so you probably don't want to see that. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. And so I left. At the end, his diagnosis of death was, we don't know. But they didn't want to do an autopsy. So I'm in a custody fight. The mother's there. The mother's telling them that, hey, I think Jeffrey killed the kid. Check him out. DCS came involved. They came, they questioned. Case ended up obviously getting dropped. But they didn't want to do an autopsy. How do you not want to do an autopsy when the mother's saying, I killed my child, and that you don't know what happened to the child, but you don't want to do an autopsy? Like, I don't understand. We just, the examiner says they don't want an autopsy. It's like, are you kidding? So there was a chance for us to get an autopsy that wasn't as in-depth. And I allowed the mother to make the determination. I stood back the whole time. I don't care let's get an autopsy. I want an autopsy. So I left the sole decision with her. And she said that she wanted an autopsy, but she wanted a private autopsy. Fine. Well, it wasn't till, I don't know, a week to 10 days later, she ended up paying for the autopsy and getting the autopsy. And so that means that anything in that baby's system that we could have really probably found out, but my thoughts are that they OD'd him on the medication. I'm throwing it out there. That's what I think happened. He did have seizures. What preempted those seizures? Obviously, we don't know, but I think trying to calm those seizures down, they gave him too much of that medication. And they even stated that. It was stated to me that we gave him so much, he'd probably knock out a horse, but it's going to be about 24 hours, come out of it. So she waited so long in this autopsy. And, anything that was in the system, even that we could have found out what really took his life, it was already half-lifed out. There was nothing in his system. He was already going through all the issues of death, all the things that happen when you die, the swelling, the rigor mortis, all that stuff. So you can't really find out what happened to our baby. So at this point, we have no idea why he died. None.